Hello and welcome. You're listening to Start Again with Shauna Lee, the place where you will be reminded that it's never too late and you're never too old to do the damn thing. So stick around if you're ready to vibe higher and be inspired to chase your dreams. Together, we will uncover your soul's truest desires. Now, if you're ready, let's get started.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Start Again with Shauna Lee. Today, I am introducing you to my friend who I met on the internet, Betsy King-McDonald. You may remember that she and I did an Instagram live session together talking about hybrid publishing, and I invited her to come on the podcast today to talk more about her business and how she identifies as a Start Again queen. So Betsy, if you would, thank you, first of all, for being here. If you would, give my audience a quick intro to who you are and how you identify as a Start Again queen.
Awesome. Thank you. No, I'm thrilled to be here. It's been a lot of fun to start making friends on the internet, in place of real friends, which is kind of, the 2020, 2022, however long this problem continues type of paradigm. Now your internet friends are your real friends. So
exactly.
I am loving that. I am excited to be here and talk about something that has raised a lot of questions for folks around me. And though I have a lot of different areas in my life where starting again is happening right now, slowly or quickly, willingly or not willingly.
Exactly.
The one I want to talk about today is my divorce from 2019 and the co-parenting relationship that we've been able to put together, and why it's so confusing for the people who get to see it.
Yes, I would absolutely love to hear more about that because you and I share a commonality that is not something that most people are used to seeing, which is spouses who have become divorced still continuing to co-parent well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I would love to do that too. So we got divorced in 2019. We got married in 2012. So we were together for just about 7 years. Chris is my ex's name. And our marriage is, I don't know how much you know about like evangelical purity culture. It's a whole thing. And I can say as much or as little about that.
I would love for you to give a little background just in case someone who's listening is not familiar with the term or what that means.
Absolutely. So if you grew up Christian in the 90s, early 2000s, there was this movement that was going on. It was really popular in Christian kind of youth group circles that was really focused on what they called sexual purity. So there were books like sort of the quintessential one is I Kissed Dating Goodbye, which is all about not dating and how dating is really trashy. And the only thing that you should do is do sort of these supervised courtship rituals. And as sort of silly and crazy as all that sounds, when I was a teenager and didn't really have a lot of context for living, didn't really have a lot of examples of how to do things, and was very serious about my faith, for me, I just bit hook, line, and sinker on these ideas because, people were telling me like, this is the way to be the best Christian that you can. This is the way to love God, is to make these purity pledges, is to be really, I don't know, super chaste. And I mean, I like to joke about, I think, is it Mean Girls, where they talk about like, don't have sex because you will get pregnant and you will die, very, very severe. But I mean, in the purity community, I mean, people are even like, can I get pregnant from holding hands? Like that's
how
that messaging can be, and how little education and equipping, and how kind of unhelpful the conversation can be. And for me as a young person, I didn't take a lot of the messages. There was a whole smorgasbord of problematic messages that you could take from that cultural background. And all over Instagram, you can find people who have taken different bits and pieces and suffered from that. A lot of the ones that I took were about patriarchy and power. And so I believed with my whole heart that the best way to live out my faith as a young Christian person was to basically say my whole existence exists for my husband. Anything my husband wants, we do it. Anything that he tells me, I accept it. All of everything is oriented towards him, right? And spoiler alert, that didn't work very well. Maybe there are people out there that it works for, but it was not me. And the result, I like to let people know that, he was not the one who was sort of making this happen. This was me making this happen and saying, I'm not going to contribute to family decision making, or, I'm not going to say no when something is going the way that I don't want it to go. It was me, doing that. And these were all things that I picked up in that sort of, women are subservient, men are in leadership, little corner of purity culture.
Right.
So we stayed together for quite a while. Lovely guy still. And, in about 2018 or so, we really started to talk more seriously about splitting up, because it was clear that things weren't going well, that we weren't really happy. Neither of us was really getting what we needed out of the relationship. And, sure, there was sort of the question of, can we work it out? Is there some way, now that we kind of understand what's going on and we're deconstructing some of the pieces that were really harmful, is there a path forward? We sat on that question for a little while, and we went to a couple therapy outlets to look into that, and really just kind of decided that even if there was a way forward, it wasn't the way that we wanted. And so mutually together, we decided, we're going to split up. But the reason that we're splitting up is not because we hate each other. It's because we realize that we've harmed each other, and we can stop harming each other anytime we want to. And let's do that
powerful.
now, And so we looked, when we looked back at the wedding vows that we made in 2012, we said, like, to love and cherish. Did we do that? Not really, to honor one another. Did we do that? Not really, and so all this sort of talk that people say about breaking your marriage vows, I don't know, you kind of got to keep them. They have to be a thing in order for you to then violate them or break them. And it's not a thing that I think we ever did. And for us, because I wasn't bringing my whole self to the table, I was bringing this version that wasn't who I really was, wasn't authentic to me, but was what I thought God wanted me to be as a wife. And so we decided, hey, we can sort of like check the box on our way out. We'll say, let's love and cherish now by saying, I forgive you. I bless you. I want you to go fall in love. I want you to have a happy life. And I'm going to do the hard thing, which is taking the sort of social flack and going through the bumps of moving out and trying to sell a house and all this stuff, because this is my like last act of loving and cherishing you, is saying that you don't belong.
I love that.
And neither do I. And so I'm going to set you free, and I'm going to forgive you. And it was a really healing thing for us. Our divorce process, like when it was private and no one else was talking about it, and we did, before everything gets messy in the community, like it was a really healing and wonderful thing. And it still is, and so starting again for us was, the decision to end something that was harmful to both of us.
And so can you talk a little bit about how you guys are co-parenting well today, which looks really odd and strange to other people?
Absolutely. So right now we have split week custody. So the kids are with him in the first half of the week. The kids are with me in the second half. But it's very common for him to be at our place or us to be at his place. We're having dinner together in the off nights, or if something comes up, hey, can you take him to the appointment? Things like that. And we're all just very close. We, have this sort of shared sense of humor. I got remarried to somebody who has also been through a similar thing. And so there's a lot of, amongst all of us, a lot of sort of, what's the word, self-deprecating marriage humor, there's a lot of sort of knowledge of one another, that we're, bantering through. But most recently, actually, we made the decision, my ex, myself, and my husband, to send our oldest child to therapy. And because he's got some anxiety things going on. And we have had to, all three of us, meet with the therapist together. And that has been really fun and interesting, and just shows how weird the dynamic is, because we had a conversation with the therapist the other day where our son was doing something that was problematic, and and I piped up and I said, guys, I'm really sorry, I'm gonna say it, and I'm gonna say it, I'm sorry, Chris, when I divorced you, I thought that I was done with this particular behavior. And so when I see it in our son, I'm really mad about it, because I felt like I wanted to be done with that behavior, and just, it's such a credit to him that, he laughed and he said, I know I wanted that for you too. And he said, I'm going to deal with it because I understand what this behavior is, and I'm going to talk to him out of my experience about saying, hey buddy, I do this too. And this is why I do it. And just watching him, he's invested so much in his own self-awareness. And I have tried to do the same, with both of us in separate therapists, and really trying to always take responsibility for what we bring to the table. Has been a really huge and helpful thing that has helped us, I hope, provide a really healthy example for our son. We have two boys. This is the oldest one that I'm talking about, of being able to, I don't know, some people who are divorced can't even be in the same room as each other. And, it's all three of us in the therapist's office, doing some kind of family therapy, and, honestly really enjoying it.
I love that you called it fun. That you
kind of
described it as that's awesome. Well, and I think you're showing your son more than just this amazing fact that you can all come together for his benefit, and I was on a podcast interview one time, and it's not about getting along necessarily. It's about working together successfully. That I think is really important. But I think you're showing your son beyond that, which is amazing, how you're human, and we're still working on things, and no one's perfect. And the fact that, everyone's in therapy kind of speaks to, we're in this together and we're not expecting perfection. And we struggle with some of those things too. And I think that's super helpful for our kids, especially those that are dealing with anxiety. I'm seeing a lot of that in my kids and, kids surrounding us coming out of the pandemic. I think it really just did a number on the mental health of our kids. So I have to commend you. I think you guys are doing a great job. And I love that example that you're providing for your son, but also the rest of the world who needs to see that. That's awesome.
Thank you. And the way I explained something to my son the other day was, with these anxiety issues, he's kind of always looking for, what's the terrible outcome going to be? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? And I can really relate to that. I certainly, going through the season of, deciding to get this divorce, I used to just think like, everything's going to be terrible. I'm going to be like living in a cardboard box with my children, and everyone's going to hate me and all these things. But one of the sort of paradigm shifts that really got me through that process was sort of the sudden realization of like, that fear, you're creating this story of like what might happen to you, but isn't it equally likely that like there could be a different story of what happens to you. And why are you picking this one as the one that you
Mm-hmm.
like think is the
Mm-hmm.
most likely to happen, and like
Yeah.
that's on you that you're
Yeah.
picking that, and so I decided to pick a different story. And
Yeah.
in the new story that I picked, I told this to my ex. I said, here's my new story. My new story is that, we split up, we both go our separate ways, we both find people that we really love, and, we go to our son's soccer games on Saturday morning, all of us, and we sit on a picnic blanket together, and, whoever you're with and whoever I'm with, and, we've brought snacks and we're all really happy to see each other. And,
Yes.
our son is there playing soccer and the other one's probably complaining about something, you know.
Yes.
And I said, this is the new story. This is the
I
future
love
that I
it.
want,
Yeah. I talk about that all the time about picking a new story because so much of our experience is what's going on in our head and the thoughts we're telling ourselves, that why are we continuing to tell ourselves a sad, messed up story that makes us not feel great? Like, if it's all made up in our head anyways and can have control over how the future actually plays out, like, why don't you pick a better story that makes you feel good?
Right. Well, and what I love about picking a new story is that it helps you frame your decision making today if you have that better story. And so, sometimes,
Yeah.
because not to say that, like, he doesn't do or say things that bother me or we disagree with, or, there's reasons we broke
Yes.
up, and,
Of course.
you got to be honest about that. But at the end of the day, if I have that better story in my head, I'm always looking at a situation and saying, what's going to get me to that feeling that I
Yes.
associate with that story? And for me, it's like I have to admit or decide that, um, you know, a conversation or an argument or whatever isn't done until it has that redemptive outcome, until it feels the way that I want it to feel, or
Yeah.
is honoring to both of us. And, we've talked about that a lot of times. We set a lot of, not so much ground rules, but a lot of expectations for the process of
Hmm.
splitting up,
Hmm.
and said, this is a process of forgiveness. This is a process of blessing. This is a process that's going to be hard, but we're doing it not just for our own good, but for each other's good. And
Hmm.
so everything that we're doing together, like, we're going to run it through those filters and try to make
Hmm.
sure that it all goes that way,
Yeah. I love that. And I'm certainly inspired by the way that you are describing things. But when you look at your story and how you've gotten to where you are today, what do you think is the most inspiring part of your story?
Hmm. That's a good question. I really honestly, I hope that I'm in it right now. I hope that I'm that's my hope, that I'm in this spot where I can't quite see what's going on. And so a little background, as soon as the divorce got settled, like very shortly thereafter, there was a huge cataclysm in my life that's separate from everything else. And I lost my job, I lost my faith community, I lost my mentor, I lost almost all my friends.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
just an enormous loss. And really,
Hmm.
when I look back, I always say, like, man, from 2019 to 2022, the only thing that's consistent is I have my kids and I have my house. That's literally nothing
Hmm.
else has stayed,
Hmm.
you know. Um, and so I have really been just trying to figure out what happens next.
Hmm.
It's been a year now, since the bottom really fell out. Almost 2 years since the process began. And not the divorce process, the loss process began.
Right. Right.
And I'm still really trying to figure out exactly what's going on, for me, what comes next for me. So
Hmm.
I enrolled in seminary, for a Doctor of Ministry program, and I've done one semester of that, and I'm hoping this is my next thing. We we shall see. I don't know,
Hmm.
but it would be I would love to inspire people with, um, finding my footing again, and ending up in a place that I love and feels good to me and feels authentic, after just so much loss. Um,
Hmm.
so I hope that
Hmm.
I'm in it now. We'll see.
I love that. Well, and that's part of the story you're getting to pick for yourself, right?
Hmm. Absolutely.
So what do you think, on the flip side of that, is the most challenging, the most surprising challenge that you faced along this journey, and how did you overcome it?
That's the hard question, because I am a 6 on the Enneagram, and so there are no surprising struggles or difficulties, because believe you me, I have like contingency plans for everything, and I'm looking miles down the road for every possible thing that could go wrong. Um, so that one things don't sneak up on me very often, but I think
Mhm.
that the thing that maybe has been surprising to me is how non-linear grief can be.
Oh my gosh,
Um,
yes.
and like there are just things like, yesterday my husband made this one sidelong comment, and like I spent my whole therapy that appointment that day in tears, and I'm not a
Mhm.
crier, but like I
Mhm.
cried through the whole thing, because of this one comment that reminded me of my old job, and it made, and it just put me back in that place, and learning to feel my emotions as they are, instead of
Mhm.
the logical framework that I would like to put over them and say, "Well, I know how I wish I felt, and I'm just gonna
Yes.
pretend that that's how I'm feeling," because
Mhm.
I can conceptualize what it might be like to feel that way.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
the brainiac answer is actually not serving me all that well. And so I think that learning to feel my feelings of grief when they pop up um, at inconvenient times or in unfamiliar ways is probably the surprising piece of it for me.
That's interesting. And yeah, I don't think it's ever convenient.
Nope.
Almost always super inconvenient. It reminds me of some time with my own therapist where she told me one time, because I also struggled with the getting to the point where I am now, where I'm honoring my feelings as they come. And that has been a whole journey to get there, just to feel my feelings and
Yeah.
not judge them. But she told me in one of our sessions that she goes, I think you're the best I've seen on that side of the chair of being able to describe very logically the emotions that you
Mhm.
feel like you should be having. She goes, I'm just not sure you're feeling them.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, yeah, no, I'm not. That sounds terrible. I don't want to do
No, it does
that.
sound terrible. It's awful. No, I'm completely with you in that. I am very analytical and not great at feeling the emotion.
Yep.
Um, and then when I do feel it, I sort of start self-judging, and I'll say, "Well, this is stupid because like I
Yes.
know the situation is not as bad as it feels like it is, or I'm crying about, this, but in reality the situation's more like this. It just feels like this, and so this is dumb and I should try to stop."
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my gosh. All the ways we judge ourselves. I guilty of the same, but I also had a very cry-y day yesterday. So
huh.
something must have been going on. It was all about, for me, it's been a kind of a purging of emotions. A lot of times when I also don't cry very often. I went through, after my last divorce, I did go through a phase where all I did was cry.
Yeah.
Um, and that was like the grieving the loss. Um, but for me, generally speaking, I don't like to cry. So I think I have avoided it most of my life. But now I'm just getting to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm crying. Let's let it out. Like it's a release of some emotions and energy. And then you get up and take a breath and choose a
Yeah.
different story. At least that's what I
Absolutely.
do.
Well, and for me, I can see so much of how I haven't escaped from that same narrative from purity culture that I started with. I still have it inside
Mm-hmm.
me. I still have that voice inside me that tells me like, no, the feelings that you're feeling aren't important. The
Mm-hmm.
choices that you make are important. The feelings you feel aren't important, because that's what, purity culture is all about. It's like, it doesn't matter what urges you're feeling, you need to make the choice to be pure and whatever. And you just
Mm-hmm.
learn that that's true about everything, that
Mm-hmm.
all we are here to do is to make good decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and our feelings. I mean, I became the best gaslighter of myself
Mm-hmm.
possible, because I
Mm-hmm.
was in my head, so I knew all the objections and I had answers for all of them. Um, and as much as I have done the work to, learn in the context of a marriage how that's not helpful, you better believe I still do it in other places
Yes.
and, other corners of my mind that still tell me like, it doesn't really matter how you're feeling. It just matters what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So along this journey, you've learned a lot. What advice would you give to the younger you?
I think this is the hardest question.
Hmm.
I think I would have told her that she is as important or precious as anyone else
I
and
love that.
deserves as much room as, you know, as I try to give to everyone. I try to give everyone so much room and take up no room for myself. But why do
Hmm.
I do that?
Hmm.
Why? When did I decide that? That
Hmm.
I'm the only person in the whole damn world that doesn't deserve any room, you know?
Right.
So I
Yeah,
think hard to know if she would listen to me or not, but I think
for
that
sure.
I would want to plant that seed for her and say, like, when did you decide that you're the person who, like, the one person in the world who doesn't deserve to
Right.
take up any space?
I That might be the most beautiful answer to this question I have received to date. I love that so much. And this is my favorite question that I ask anyone, because I get such a wide variety of amazing advice for everyone. Like every answer is so amazing. But it reminds me of Amanda Francis, who I follow. She's money mentality. Like she is the money queen is what she calls herself. Anyways, I follow her and she always says basically something along the lines of God didn't forget you. What
Mm,
makes you think you're so special that you're the only person in the world who doesn't deserve to get what you want? And it's
mhm.
kind of in line with what you were saying. And I'm like, yes, why do we think this? Why do we think we're the exception and that somehow we're the forgotten one out
Yeah,
of everybody else? Because it's just
yeah.
not true.
And that's, it's funny that you would bring that up in the context of money because that's something that I was working with a business coach for like a hot minute, and she was saying
Hmm.
the same thing, where she said like, she was like, "You're really in your head about money, and you think about it
Hmm.
in a really weird way." And so
Hmm.
she encouraged me to start kind of thinking of a different mantra, or trying to think of a different way to approach money. And what I chose that I would write out every day was like, there are plenty of people out there who in your mind don't deserve to have the money that they have. There's no
Hmm.
correlation between like moral goodness and having money, which
A hundred
I
percent.
always thought, it's sort of once again like being in that, you know, type of religious space where it's like if you are doing all the right things and you're very like morally scrupulous, then and only then is God going to bless you. And those
Hmm.
types of messages really do sink deep, even if you look at it on the
Hmm.
surface and say, well, I don't really know that that's how that happens, because I'm sure that there are plenty of really amazing, good people in Pakistan whose houses got totally demolished this week. It doesn't track logically, but inside it still feels like I have to do something to earn goodness
Yes.
in my life.
Yes. Yes. Well, that's with any limiting belief, right? It's ingrained so deep that you almost stop seeing it. It feels so true until you stop and shine a light on it and look at it and say, wait, is that ultimately true for everyone on the planet? And
Yeah.
of course, the answer is always no, of course not, because you can think
Right,
of
so little
examples,
is.
yeah, every which way. But yeah, I think most people have a really messed up mentality around money. It's ingrained from our society and religion even. There's a lot of reasons, and a lot of it is just generational. It's passed down from parents to kids and to their kids, and it's interesting when I start talking to people about this concept of money. Um, it how quickly it will come out, and someone from the outside in can look at it and say, oh gosh, why do you believe this thing? Like, let's look at it, because you're so close to it in the moment you can't see it for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that there
Yeah.
are, we have this really prevalent kind of hustle culture, or grind
Mm.
culture that's like,
Yes.
no pain, no gain, like, and truly starts to equate suffering like as
Yes.
payment for happiness or payment
Yes.
for abundance. And that was something that, many years ago, my therapist asked me, in all honesty, she said, wait a minute, do you think that you have to purchase happiness with pain?
Oh,
And I was like, heck yeah, I do. Like all the way through, I believe that, And I
yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I understand that what you're telling me is that that's dysfunctional and that I'm not supposed to believe that. I'll give it some thought. But like
Right.
totally, because I think that's
Totally,
been
I
a
think
core
that.
message in culture, and that, your abundance comes from your hard work, and, your hard work is not truly hard work unless it, involves some suffering, and,
Yes.
so
Yes,
there's
this
this sort of
idea
basic system.
that we have to like invest our blood, sweat, and tears in something before we have earned the right to deserve that
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
I think I
it's so
decided
wrong.
it is. I mean, it was probably around the time that I was postpartum with my second child. I had a really terrible birth. Well, I had some issues. The hospital did not want to admit that I was having a baby. And so
Mm,
I kept telling them, like, this is happening, people. And they were like, no, it's not, go home. And, I was like, you don't want me to
yes,
go home. Nobody wants me to go
yes,
home. Um, and that my it was such a transformative experience because my persistence really honestly saved my son's life. I mean, he would not have survived
mm,
that process if I had been not at the hospital.
mhm, mhm.
And man, that changed my whole perspective on myself. And I decided, like, actually, nobody else does know what's best for me. I alone know.
Yes,
Like, I am the only person in that room who could save my son's life, and the way that I had to
yep,
do that
yep,
was to know and understand myself and what I'm feeling. Like, talk
yeah.
about a
Oh my
high
gosh.
stakes moment, right?
Yes,
And I decided from that moment on that I was like, "You know what? My peace and my rest and my health and my abundance, man, they're expensive. You don't get to,
yeah,
like, just run over that for nothing, and I
hmm,
don't need to invest it for pennies.
yep.
I don't need to."
That's awesome.
That was a
I
very,
love the
like,
way you framed that.
dense story for a very small and pithy, little lesson there, but that was where that's where it came from, so.
No, I love it. I love how our lives give us all these anecdotal stories to learn these lessons, and how different yours can look from mine to learn the same
Mhm.
exact lesson.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of how different we all are, which is why I love doing this podcast, because I get a chance to, well, first of all, I get to experience the conversations that we're having, but then I get to share it with everyone. And I think everyone's story is so different and so important and valuable, and it is usually hearing someone else's story that is going to give someone hope that they can do something they don't think they can.
Yeah.
It's going to give them an example of how the hell it was done. It
Mhm.
just does so much for people to hear other people's stories. So thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
I think you're totally right.
Yeah. So my next question is, which you sort of touched on earlier, but I do want to give you a chance to talk about your business as well, because
Thank
I know
you.
you've got a lot of things in the hopper. But where are you going from here? What's next for
Yeah.
you?
I do have a lot of irons in the fire. That's
Hmm.
one of my defining characteristics as a person. And if you'd like
Hmm.
to place that on ADHD, you can. But I might also just be, that kind of a person, little worker bee.
Oh,
Um,
actually, do you know anything about human design? Do you know what type you are?
oh, tell me what the types are again.
I don't remember all of them.
You
I
don't
know
remember because
I'm a manifesting generator. So there's also a
okay.
manifester and a generator
So
and a
I know
reflector.
what was the one, man? It starts with a P. What's that one?
Projector.
Projector.
That's
I was
you.
either a projector or a generator. I was like looking at those two and I was like, okay, these are
Hmm.
some things that
Hmm.
make sense to me.
I'm always curious about that when someone describes themselves the way I describe myself, which is I work best when I have a bunch of balls in the air that I'm juggling all at once. So you having a bunch of irons in the fire totally was like, wait, is she the manager as well? But that's interesting. Okay, so yes, you have a bunch of irons in the fire. Let's talk
Bunch
about
of
this.
different projects. One of them is this is not the one that we'll talk about for the main thing, but I'm doing my own little short podcast series, doing 6 or 7 episodes that I'm really excited about. My first big interview with somebody is on Monday. And
very
that is for a
exciting.
project called Sloppy Wet Kiss, which is a sort of purity culture or post-purity culture processing through some of those harmful dynamics.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and so on Monday, I'm interviewing Dr. Hilary McBride, who wrote that wonderful book, The Wisdom of Your Body. And so she'll be talking to me a little bit about some of those things, and I don't know when that's going to be published because I decided, like I said, my schedule, I'm expensive, and I'm not going to like hustle to get this project out. I'm just going to wait until all the episodes are done, and then I'm going to put it out when I feel like it on my own schedule.
I love it. I
So
love it.
I don't want to hustle.
Well, congrats, because getting that first interview actually scheduled and happening is so difficult to like jump in and say, all right, I'm doing it. So
Yeah.
good job.
Well, I didn't expect, I mean, she was a cold call. I didn't expect a yes because, why would she
That's
say
awesome.
yes? Because of this whole conversation that we've been having, about self-limiting beliefs. But then when she said yes, I was like, oh crap, now I actually have to do it.
Now we have to listen. This is exactly what is happening for me. I am scheduling some in-person events. I never did a book launch for my book. And so it's going to be kind of a combination of meet the author, book signing, but also since I've interviewed so many people locally for the podcast, I'm going to give each of those guests an opportunity to come and have people meet them in person as well. So it's kind of just this meet and greet tour that we're doing.
Yeah.
But I've been talking about doing this for a while, and then finally asked a friend of mine to really help me coordinate the logistics of these events happening. And we have 4 scheduled. And all of a sudden I'm
That's
like,
amazing.
oh gosh, it's real. Oh, I have to do this now.
Right? People are actually counting on you to do it.
Yes.
It's
So I can
stressful.
relate. I can
Yes.
relate.
So that's coming up in some indeterminate future. I don't know when.
Mhm.
But what is happening right now is that in the midst of all of this loss and transition and, what am I doing with my life, job, disaster, I started thinking, what would I want to do if money was no object and I, whatever, just full on whatever.
Yes.
And I thought, I love helping people with their projects, whatever their projects are. Like I'm such a helper type of person that my own projects, I don't know, I have that sense of dread, like, oh crap, I actually have to do it. With other people,
Yes.
I'm like, yes, let's do it. Let's go. I'm here for
Yes.
you. Like number one cheerleader. That's my favorite gear to be in. And I thought, I would love to, I have a lot of experience in the book world. So
Yes.
from writing, editing, proofreading, layout, design, working with printing companies, fulfillment, distribution, like I just hodgepodge over my life have put together a bunch of experience in this way. And I thought, I really could walk with somebody from in whatever stage of the process they're in and help them move to the next place. And so I started just an Instagram and a website called Midwinter Press. And I was like, well, at the very least, like if in 5 years I decide that I want to take this more seriously, I'll have an Instagram where there'll be some old content to give it some some legitimacy.
Sure. Yeah.
And it actually has been really great. I just yesterday opened up a contest that I'm already getting really great submissions for. It's a pitch contest. So over on my Instagram, which is at Midwinter, I think it's underscore press, MIDWINTER, Midwinter underscore press. People are commenting their book ideas, their projects that they're working on, kind of at any stage of completion. And my favorite pitch is going to get $300 off of a publishing package with me, of whatever part of the publishing package they need to get their project to the next stage. And man, the pitches coming in are really good. I'm really excited.
That's
so
awesome.
That is going to run until October 31st. So there may still be time to get your pitch ready. If you would like to pitch a book or a project on that page, please feel free.
Yes, people should definitely pop over and do that.
Yeah, that would be perfect. I would love doing that because honestly, like nothing makes me happier than I was on vacation actually. And I woke up in the morning and it was like, there's no plans, you're on vacation. I was like, what do I want to do today? And my brain went back to a past client and said, I want to work on her book, and then I want to call her and make sure she still believes in herself today, and
Yes,
I had to
yes.
tell my brain, like, we're done with that project. We did finish that one. But it
Uh-huh.
made me think, okay, so I guess I need to go get more clients, because even on vacation, like, I'm
That's what
chomping
you're
at the
wanting to
bit
do.
to
Yeah.
help people move their projects forward and call them on the phone and make sure that they still know that what they're doing is amazing. So
Yeah. Well, I love that. I think the biggest reason why people don't write books is because they don't think they can.
yeah.
And so you're offering a valuable service to be able to be their cheerleader and tell them you can do it.
Yeah. Well, and also, the ins and outs of the publishing process, like, can just be so daunting. And then even if you've
Oh, for
written something
sure.
amazing and you've, got it up to write the whole book, and then you're like, oh gosh, I got to do more. I got to, like,
Yes.
figure out how to buy an ISBN, or I have to, like, design it or put it on where, you know.
Yes. Yes. I always tell people, yes, the publishing process can be daunting. It is actually. It's very overwhelming and daunting. There are people to help you with that, and you can't even worry about that until you write the book.
That's
So
right.
let's get the book written. And then we can move on to step 2, which is to figure out what you do afterwards,
Right. Well,
which
and
is great.
hopefully, knowing that I'm here, don't worry about it ever, because
There
just
you
write your
go.
stuff and then know that I'll be here to help you, and you don't have to
That's
worry about it at
awesome.
all.
Yes. So I actually am working on a new coaching package around specifically helping people to write their books, but I'm on the front end of that process. So once they get to the point where they're like, okay, we're ready to publish, I could be like, here you go. And it
Yes,
would be such a great partnership because it's the beginning, it's both phases.
that would be a lot of
So
fun. I would love that.
excellent. Well, we will obviously stay in touch because we have done a fairly good job of doing that, even though we've never actually met in person.
That's okay. Like I said, in the 2020s, internet friends are real friends. It's fine.
For real, for real. But I am so appreciative that you came to chat with me today and let my audience get to know you. And I
Yeah,
will
thank you so much.
definitely link all of that below. But thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Okay, listen. Are you struggling to find what your true purpose really is? You should try journaling. At the very least, it will get you to a better feeling place than where you are right now. I've created a set of journal prompts to get you on your way to discovering who you truly are and where you want to go from here. My free download is called Journal Yourself to Joy, and it's available at shaunalee.com under Free Stuff. These are my tried and true journal prompts that will raise your energy, increase your positivity, and brighten your day. Download yours today.